Hello everybody and welcome back to the Riche Life. So it's no secret around here that I love a pretty table, right? But I didn't realize until I started prepping for this episode that my love of tablescaping actually started with this gorgeous glass beaded charger. Yep. I didn't even know what a charger plate was until I saw this when we were planning for our wedding and our wedding reception. And I saw these chargers and I was like, oh my gosh, we have to have those. But then reality hit and I discovered that we could not have 200 of these because they were way too expensive. So we didn't have them at our reception. We still had a beautiful reception, but just without the glass beaded charger plates. And I think that in the back of my mind, I know this is going to sound a little strange, but I think that my whole tablescaping career began with my quest to get back to the glass beaded chargers. And as many of you know, they were featured in my Christmas 2017 Tablescape tour, which actually is now over 125,000 views. So thank you guys so much for all of your tablescape love. And this episode is actually all about giving some of that love right back to you. I know the holidays are coming up. I also know that a lot of people out there are really intimidated by the whole tablescaping process. And I don't want that for you. I know tablescaping is my happy place. I'm not saying that I want that for you either, although it is a nice place to be. But I at least want to help make the process a little less intimidating for you, maybe even fun. All right, so I'm going to show you some of my favorite tablescaping styling tips. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm so happy to help. But the first thing I want to make sure is that you know what your personal style is. So not what my style is, not what you see on Pinterest or in magazines, but what is your personal style? And it doesn't necessarily have to have a name attached to it, but you just have to know what you love. And sometimes if that's hard, you can maybe start with what you know you don't like or don't love. And that helps you get to a better understanding of what your style really is. And then also I want to encourage you guys, as you're listening to me or whoever else, to create your own rules, right? There's so many rules out there with everything else in life that with this, you should just really have fun with it. Embrace the things that you like. I mean, there's certain things, fork goes here, knife goes here, all of that you can follow, but then, maybe you don't want to follow it, okay? It's totally up to you, and that's really what I want to emphasize. So now we're officially ready to start, and I want to start with telling you about how I start the tablescaping process. The first thing I do is think about the feeling I want people to have when they see the table for the first time. And the mood, right? And the vibe that I want them to have, us to have as we're seated around the table. Because for me, tablescaping is not just about designing a pretty table, but it's about creating the full experience.
Richie, it's beautiful. I mean, it's stunning. It's like Morocco meets like Spain meets LA.
And then from there, I think about, what do I want the focal point of this table to be? That way, once I establish that, I can style around it. So in many cases, that's a centerpiece, but it doesn't have to be. For example, in my LA tablescape, I found the plates first and I styled the rest of the table around that. And then when I start the actual styling process, I always begin by shopping my own collection. I know I've said this before, but I can't stress how important it is to buy things that you love. Only buy things that you love. That way, you'll use them again and again in different ways on your tables. Okay? And save your receipts, of course, because sometimes we buy things in the store that we think we love, and then we get back home and we're like, ooh, I don't love that as much as I thought I would. Okay, so that's what I do. I take a lot of stuff back. And then when I do find things that I like between what I already have and maybe supplementing with some things that I've bought, one of my favorite things to do is mix high and low items, right? So something that may be really high end with something that's not so expensive to create a look that looks expensive. Believe it or not, I really don't like spending a lot of money on tablescapes. I love a good bargain. So I like when I can mix and match like that. I also like when I mix and match colors and textures and add layers. So those are elements of what my signature style is. You'll see that a lot on my tables. And then something else I like to do is add something unexpected to the table, right? So I've got my vibe, I've got my focal point, but what can I add that's not expected to this table? One of the ways I added to my winter tablescape this year was I used a runner, I made a runner out of river rocks. Definitely something that you would not expect to see on a table, but it really, really added so much to the look. And it wasn't even the focal point, it wasn't where I started, it was something that I added afterwards to kind of finish the look. And then I did something very unexpected, I think, at least for my guests, which is add jelly beans to my Easter tablescape. I called it a nice, like, sweet finish to the brunch. But again, think about things that you can add to your own tables that are unexpected. And then speaking of styling your tables, make sure that you are not over styling. This is, I'm talking to myself too, trust me, because sometimes I can get in, tablescaping mode and then I'm like, oh, I want this and this and this, but be careful, because you want to make an interesting table, but you don't want to make a cluttered table, especially when you're sitting down eating. You want to make sure you take away anything that could be distracting or that could block conversation. So even if you have a nice big centerpiece, which I like in many cases, particularly in my dining room, we have to take that off before we start eating. All right, so I know that there are a lot of people out there, or maybe most of you out there are like, okay, Richie, that's all fine and good for you because you have all these plates and this and that. But what do I do when I don't have as many plates, or maybe don't want as many plates or all these extra things? What do I do to still have a nice look? Well, I'm glad you asked. I recommend getting a nice set of white plates that you love, that you can either dress up sometimes or dress down sometimes. And the same thing with a nice classic set of flatware. All right, when you're actually setting your table, basic setup is the dinner fork, the big one, the dinner knife, and the dinner spoon, which is the big one, the tablespoon. If you want to get a little fancy, you can always add your salad fork and your teaspoon either on the right side or above the plates. But again, you don't have to. Make up your own rules, right? But make sure when you're creating your basic look that you have a nice versatile set of flatware, timeless, okay? Same thing with stemware. You don't have to have a red wine glass, a white wine glass, a water goblet. Just get a nice all-purpose wine glass that's timeless, that can complement your basic look as well. And then when you want to switch it up, you can add things like placemats, or charger plates, or salad plates when you want a nice pop of color, or you want to add a festive flair. And then napkins. Oh my gosh, I think that napkins are probably my favorite styling tool, particularly napkin rings, because you can have the same napkin and just change it up in so many different ways with a really nice napkin ring. Not too expensive, and they don't take up a lot of real estate. You can also do some funky things with your napkins. I am not a big napkin folder, not because I don't respect the craft, because it is a craft. I just don't have the patience. So that's why you'll see me do a lot of different things with my napkins. So definitely, again, on your looks, feel free to get creative. And feel free, if you have any questions, to ask me, okay? One of the questions I do get a lot is, do you keep your tablescapes up all year round? And the answer is yes, I do. When it's not the holidays, they're not as fancy. I love a pretty table. I love my family too, and they indulge me, but they are not loving not being able to eat on our family table. So I have to have a mix of style and also practicality. But definitely something you can do if you want to keep a nice look on your table throughout the year. All right, so I hope these tips help you in the holidays and beyond. I hope you'll take me up on my offer. If you have any questions, let me know. And as always, I hope that you subscribe to the Riche Life so that you can stay up to date with all of the latest. Until next time, take care, everybody.